Shalom, giving all praises, glory, honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles, a great millstone that teach us his truth through the spirit and power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. In the name of the Holy Spirit, Bahashem Rakak Wadash, the spirit that separates us from the rest of Israel. Peace, love, and blessings, much protection unto the elect scattered abroad around the four corners of the earth, mainly in Babylon the Great. All right, and this basically, these prophecies are flowing through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and this is my video lesson dealing with the economic woes that has been happening for the past week or so, and now via through certain social medias, news outlets, this tariff that DJ Trump is allowing and pushing, all right, via through the elites and ultimately through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right, he's making big moves that's ultimately is going to end all be all, lead to the road of the MOTB system. All right, to, contrary to you average Babylonians, you Americans believe, this government is against you and has been against you for quite some time since they have established themselves in the power seat. But now, as we itching more and more to the end of the world, the end of an age, a rulership, or empire, all these great birth pains are going to happen upon the planet Earth. As the scriptures say, all these are the beginning of sorrows. And that's basically what I want to touch up on, as all these, signs and wonders, prophecies, troubles, tribulations, all these are the beginning of sorrows through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And it's the judgments that the Lord, proclaimed and has prophesied throughout the ages since the beginning of times. All right, as you see in the head title, or the title heading, it says judgment on the earth, Isaiah the 24th chapter. All right, the prideful people, their pride is languishing, which goes into, it's disappearing, it's vanishing. And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, all right, the Lord is about to humble these people greatly right before the death and destruction of this current empire and rulership. All right. So I want to get 2nd Ezra right quick, since I quoted it. Hold on, Salak. Lord will is still recording. You can hear me. Second Ezra chapter 16, verse 38. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. Verse 39, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth. All right, and the plagues of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is happening upon the earth, and part of that plague is economic woes. And even though, now we're in the age of information, and now that we understand the definition of tariffs, what's the downfall of it, what's the uprising of it, but us understanding prophecies and the times that we're living in, ultimately this is going to end the reign or the kingdom of Esau Edom, which is ruling right now as I'm doing this video, being in Babylon the Great America, the United States of America, which is slowly being divided, all right, through its, draconian laws, Isaiah the 10th chapter, verse 1 and 2. All right. Mischief by laws that they pass to further suppress and oppress the people that, that they said that they're here to protect. Okay. Verse 39, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. And that's what's coming upon Babylon the Great. All right. Like we're witnessing right now, the economic woes of America, because it's been numerous of news outlets that's been, traveling on the social medias, all right, the YouTube, the TikToks, so on and so forth, letting you people know that great, judgment is coming upon the earth and perilous times, as the scriptures say, pursuing the 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, which I'm gonna get right now. 2 Timothy 3 say difficult times will come. All right, and that's the times we're entering into, the difficult times. All right, the times of and society, totally collapsing, which includes the power grid, the water supplies, the food supplies. Even though dealing with the food supply is going to be a scarcity or a rations of food. All right, because that's what the word famine goes into, lack of resources. All right, and resources are going to be lacking in that day due to the new system that they want to implement, which is that digital system. All right, that MOTB system, according to Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 16 on down to 17. And also you can read the 18, man. And the punishment of that, of receiving that mark and trusting in Babylon the Great is Revelation 14, verse 9 and 10. That you're going to be utterly destroyed and burned, ultimately in the lake of fire. And that's how the Lord, has spoken it. All right. This was part of the prophecies that was written since the beginning. Okay. So us being the prophets, we ought to watch unto prayer, because the evil days are here, and they are all this is the beginning of sorrows, because people really don't know and don't understand really and truly how much of perilous times that we're entering into. All right, because just a few weeks ago you had the EU and certain countries over there in the eastern part of the world, the eastern hemisphere, preparing their citizens for war. All right, a crash of society, telling them to stockpile on food, water, resources, medical supplies, so on and so forth. But to the Americans, they're not promoting that. All right, but still, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, because this truth really ultimately comes, you already know, from out of Babylon the Great. All right, mainly Harlem, New York, where the One West was established. All right, then the gospel was going to be heard unto all the world. But nonetheless, the Americans are really, truly not preparing themselves for the worst. All right, even though you do have some people, some that's looking at the stocks, looking at the times that we're entering into, but still not understanding that this is the end. Still not understanding it's the end of Esau, Edom rulership and the rise of a more superior and righteous, kingdom that's about to be established on the planet Earth. See, people can't see that. All right, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians. All right, the ones that was at the bottom, which are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. All right, that's our true nationality. We was at the bottom through the curses. And now the signs and the prophecies that's happening upon the earth, this is a sign of us being uplifted. This is a sign of us, ushering in or, professing the kingdom of heaven, the word English calls Jesus Christ, which his true name in Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. All right, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. All right, Mashiach. Okay, so those are the times that we're living into. So this is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetousness, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, the spiritual parents, unthankful, unholy. And that's the ones that's of the circumcision. All right, speaking mainly first and foremost, and pursuing the 1 Peter chapter 4 and 17, judgment is going to begin at the house of the Most High. That's why the term is called Jacob's trouble, pursuing to Jeremiah 30 and 7. All right, it's going to be the final troubles and the final judgments of who the Lord do not want to be partakers of his righteous kingdom via the being the first fruit. All right, and they're going to witness the Lord's judgments, knowing death after pain, praying that we're not part of that, that mark of the death and destruction, man. Okay. So let's get NLT. It's 2 Timothy 3 and 1. You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be difficult times, for people will love only themselves and their money. All right, and that's dealing with the false prophets. All right, the people that really truly don't love and care for the flock of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. The ones that's been, lying to people. All right, lying to the people and not warning them of the danger and the destruction that's coming upon the planet Earth. All right, because that's what's coming. All right, we got numerous of precepts and scriptures, all right, that we always go into. Jeremiah 28 and 8. Ezekiel the 3rd chapter, verse 17 on down. Ezekiel the 33rd chapter. Us being the prophets of the Lord, we ought to give warning, to Israel coming from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Heavenly Father through his only begotten Son, which is coming with death and destruction. And we clearly see that through the Spirit. And we understand it also. Okay, so we ought to prepare ourselves, mentally, spiritually, physically, all aspects of being in troublous times, man. That's just the truth. And as it says in 2 Ezra, the 16th chapter, verse 40, you ought to be as pilgrims on the earth during those evil days, those bad times. All right. Like I said, you people really, truly don't understand what's about to come down the pike. Okay. Verse 2, 2 Timothy 3 and 2. For the people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents. All right. Which we're also seeing now, the generation Z. All right. The last generation. They're totally off, disrespectful. Don't know no structure, anything like that. But that's all through the Spirit, because we are at the last leg of Esau Edom, Salakia, the last leg of Esau Edom, the so-called Caucasian white race, empire and power structure. All right, he's about to crumble, he's about to go down. And we clearly see that by the way of these economic woes. And already Akim and elders and bishops and so on and so forth, the men of the Lord of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai are already doing, their videos and has been doing videos dealing with this economic destruction. Because at the end of the day, this economic destruction is leading into World War III. All right, that's why you're seeing more and more of talks of World War III being brewed up. All right, even though a lot of, countries won't cease firing, so on and so forth, but there's always something through the Spirit and power Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai to allow these nations to be cutthroat at each other. That's why we read scriptures as to Proverbs 20 and 24. All right. Or Proverbs 21 and 1. Matter of fact, let's get it just to make sure. But this is all the doing and the bidding of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah that's allowing these leaders to be cutthroat at each other like this. All right, Proverbs 20, chapter 20, verse 24. Man's goings are of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. How can a man then understand his own way? Read it in the NLT. The Lord directs our steps, so why try to understand everything along the way? All right, because the Lord is in control at the end. Okay. So let's get Proverbs 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. All right. Like I said, straight to the point, man. All right, Proverbs 21 and 1 in the NLT. The king's heart is like the stream of water directed by the Lord. He guides it wherever he pleases. All right, and the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, is setting up, DJ Trump, that cruel Lord, pursuing to Isaiah the 19th chapter and verse 5, if I'm not mistaken. That cruel Lord is setting up tensions amongst the whole planet Earth. Okay. So let's go back to Isaiah 24. Read it in the KJV. But like I said, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah is setting up forth these kings and rulers to be cutthroat towards one another, and ultimately Esau Edom being more stout than his fellow, being very prideful in nature. He is taunting both his allies and his arch nemesis. All right, which ultimately the scriptures say that the beast shall hate the whore, NATO and the EU. All right, the European, nations and unions that's, tied with Babylon, the Great America. They're eventually going to turn. And as you've seen in the news, you're seeing those things happen as we speak. Even though the EU and NATO really, as they say, they want peace. They don't want war. But at the end all be all, they're going to be driven into war. Also dealing with talks with the U.S., all right, and Israel. All right, going back to Jeremiah, the 49th chapter. All right, the least of the flock shall draw them out. Okay, and that's dealing with the Amalekites, or the so-called small hatters. All right, the Jewish people. Okay, the ones that's living in the land of Israel today, which are not the chosen people, but those are the same devils or the branch of Edom that's going to lead Babylon the Great into World War III. All right, you read precepts and prophecies going into Joel the 3rd chapter, Isaiah 13, Isaiah 14, Isaiah 34, Jeremiah, Ezekiel 38. All right, Revelation 17, Revelation 18. At the end of the day, what we're witnessing is the world being on a standstill. All right, and these leaders and, are being in that confused state. And that's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. All right. And with this economic, destruction or collapse that's going on, is going to lead to that new system, because as people should know, and majority of the people does know this information, but they still doesn't, inquire through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. They still want to follow after their own way. They still want to trust in Babylon the Great to rebuild all right, come back stronger, but that's not the case. All right, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has it set, has it set up via through prophecies for this place to be thrown down with utter nuclear destruction. All right, utter nuclear destruction, that this place would not be inhabited anymore, and Esau Edom is going to be put out. All right, that's the plans of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua through his words that is being spoken by the prophets, which you people still do not want to believe in. And we told you people these things was going to come with these tariffs. All right, because it's already bad enough the economy is shot out to shit. Meanwhile, you still having, cities and countries dealing with all types of defaults, dealing with the money, and so on and so forth. So we told you these things was going to come through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. So sooner or later, within a couple of months that I feel through the spirit, these things are really going to affect the American people, especially if and when they do not come to an agreement. Because even if they do come to an agreement, it's only going to be short term. Because why? Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has it destined and written for this place to be utterly destroyed. All right, by both its allies and its enemies of Babylon the Great. The beast shall hate the whore and shall make her naked, expose her, all right, and utterly burn her with fire. And they're going to know that Esau Edom was the wicked that the Bible speaks of. And they're going to be put out. And Lord Yahweh Shai, along with his people, is going to rule forever. It's Isaiah chapter 24, verse 1. Behold, the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. All right, and ultimately the Lord, has set that up through wickedness being spread upon the earth. All right, through the time of Adam, this place has been turned upside down. All right, as it says, I believe it's in Isaiah. Let me get it right quick. Upside. Let me get it right quick, Lord will. Okay, call I am like Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work of him that made it, he made me not, or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he has no understanding. All right, and this is through Esau's Edom philosophies and their way of thinking. All right, via through the God complex, do as thy wilt, because that puts the people in a certain mind frame that they are greater than the creator. All right, them being the creature. All right, them saying that they are greater than God by saying that there is no God. My body, my choice. I do whatever as I please. All right, like I said, do as thy wilt spirit upon these people. Okay, and that's the turning of upside down, even though we understand it was Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai during the time of the fall of Adam, which fell during the time of Eve and the serpent. All right, Eve being the woman, aka the son of God, the woman of the son of God. All right, ultimately our women, the Israelite woman, what it boils down to ultimately, but also the serpent being more subtle than all the creatures of the earth, being more sneaky and vile and evil. All right, that's Esau Edom. All right, though he humbled himself, crouching as a lion, his words are smooth as butter, softer than oil, but war is in his heart and ready, and swords are draw out ready, man. Roughly paraphrasing. Okay, Lord will that all makes sense at the end of the day. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai set up the serpent, Esau Edom, and Eve, the so-called, black, Hispanic, Native American woman. All right, the woman, just the woman in general, man. All right, following after the way of wickedness. That's why the Lord put that spirit upon women and those curses. All right, upon all women. That's just not on the Israelite woman. That's on all women. Okay. Verse 4: the earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. And ultimately, this earth is defiled under the Edomites. All right. That's ultimately what it is defiled under. Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea and of the sea. For the devil is coming down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. That's Esau Edom, man. All right. That is Esau Edom. And he has a short time. He knoweth it. But he is the rulers of the inhabitants of the earth. He is the one that controls all things, all nations. Going back to Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. All right, he performed to himself all nations, all kindreds and peoples. But now we are witnessing his end. And part of his end is their economics, their wealth, their fortune. All right, which they stole and raped and pillaged different lands and resources. Okay. So that's the time that we're entering into. If you have spiritual ears and eyes of understanding, seeing and hearing the words of prophecies, the words of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, man. Salak, I got Jeremiah, Isaiah 24. Verse 8. The mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the heap of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. There is crying for wine in the streets. All right, the crying for wine in the streets is wisdom. All right, understanding. All right, conference. People in that day, especially once this society collapsed, they're going to look for guidance, leaderships. All right, not mainly by the government, but ultimately a spiritual understanding on how and why these events are happening. All right, ultimately they're going to look for the men of the Lord. But in that time and in that day, the Lord is going to remove his men from off the four corners. Verse 11, there is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. All right, and that's what's coming. Death and destruction upon Babylon the Great. All right. And as it says in the news article, Democracy Now, Salakia, Democracy Now, American empire is in decline. Economics, Richard Wolf on Trump's trade wars and tariff. And this was 5 days ago. All right, Lord, will I do a part 2 video? Well, I want to close out by saying, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone that teach us the truth. Peace, love, and blessings to the elect scattered abroad around the four corners of the earth, mainly in Babylon the Great. A death and destruction is fastly approaching. Salvation is nearer than when we believe. All right, till next time, I say shalom.